officer-involved shooting. Looks like law enforcement just wrapped up there. So we'll re-rack that and make sure we get that to you as well. But in the meantime, like I said, we are still monitoring some of these border executive orders, and we have some of our reporters standing by as well down there by the border wall that is and has been already constructed here. And in the meantime, we do have our live look there over the El Paso skyline because we're not going to go too far from there. All right, and like I said there, we do want to go out now to Fox News multimedia reporter Caroline Elliott standing by there at the border in El Paso. Just showed you that pretty cool downtown skyline version, but she's at the border with reaction, especially from these residents there in El Paso about some of these border executive orders that Trump has signed, and she joins me. Caroline, good to see you. I know you've covered the border extensively over the last few years. How's the reaction going to what we've been just talking about for the last hour?
Yeah, Andrew, well, we're hearing from some migrants just complete shock after they realized that CBP One app was not working. That appointment that they thought was going to happen was no longer scheduled. But we're also hearing relief from some local residents here in El Paso. Again, after a very busy first day in office, we know that President Trump has revoked 87 Biden policies and assigned 10 different executive orders, all focused on border security. And now, according to Trump's new border czar, ICE raids could begin as early as today. Now, border czar Tom Homan told Fox News that the main priority here is to target those undocumented migrants with a criminal record. And we're told teams are already on the ground in cities like Chicago, New York, and Boston.
ICE officers started there doing their job that haven't been allowed to do for 4 years. There's not a blanket, saying we can't go into this location at all, but there's going to be a process put in place where there is discretion used, but it's decided by a higher level ICE officers to make sure they're doing the right thing. It has to be a significant public safety threat, a significant national security threat to do something like that.
Good shit.
President Trump also ordered Customs and Border Protection to shut down the CBP One app, as we mentioned. Now, this app has allowed migrants to get an appointment to request asylum and stay in the United States until that appointment. But now Customs and Border Protection posted on its website that the app was no longer available and all existing appointments have been canceled.
I don't even have an answer to give my son. What's going to happen? He comes and he asks me what's going to happen. What answer do I give my son? I don't have an answer because I don't know what's going to happen to us on the streets.
Now, just hours after taking office, President Trump has declared a national emergency at the southern border and has also signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship. This afternoon, in the last couple hours, we've already seen some legal challenges to this executive order. Andrew.
Caroline, just a couple questions for you. I mean, have you seen any lines of undocumented migrants there across the other side of the fence of the wall there whose appointments may have been canceled, who are just asking what is going on? Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, not from where I'm standing, Andrew. And again, this is a spot where we have seen line after line of migrants crossing into El Paso, better for the better part of those 4 years now. So again, that's quite the switch up from what we've seen. We've also heard from sources that migrants were again seen on the Mexican side crying, getting quite emotional when they tried to pull out that CBP One app and realized that that appointment was no longer happening. So we're hearing that a lot of migrants on the Mexican side still adjusting to some of these policy changes.
All right,
Andrew.
Caroline Elliott there live for us in El Paso. Caroline, good to see you. Thanks for bringing us this story. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, we do want to get one more top headline in having to do with immigration, customs enforcement, and the Border Patrol force. A very, very sad day for the U.S. Border Patrol. I want to put up some of this video here that we have obtained from the scene. Take a look at this. So the FBI now investigating the shooting death, the killing of a Border Patrol agent in Vermont just yesterday. So I have a statement in from the FBI field office in Albany. They say they're investigating an alleged assault on a federal officer in connection with the fatal shooting involving a U.S. Border Patrol agent from Monday afternoon on I-91 in Coventry, Vermont. One U.S. Border Patrol agent was killed along with one subject. Another subject was injured and is in custody. FBI personnel will be working with our partners from the U.S. Border Patrol and Vermont State Police to gather evidence and process the scene. They say while there is no threat to the public, I-91 will remain closed due to investigative activity. They say this is an active investigation and FBI Albany will work to provide more details as they become available. Also, I have in front of me a statement from the acting Secretary of Homeland Security.
I tried demoing him down, get him out of the way.
Saying this, that today, this is from yesterday, January 20th, the Border Patrol agent assigned to the U.S. Border Patrol's Swanton sector was fatally shot in the line of duty. And we're also getting an identification of this Border Patrol agent, of this victim here. I want to put up from the Vermont State Police. This is just a sad set of circumstances. They say our hearts are heavy as we send our deepest condolences to the U.S. Border Patrol's Swanton sector after Agent Dave Chris Malin was fatally shot yesterday in the line of duty in Coventry, Vermont. They say all affected by this tragedy are in our thoughts and prayers. Also, we have a statement in from a CBP spokesperson confirming the identity of Border Patrol agent David Malin. Also, Vermont Governor Phil Scott saying, I'm deeply saddened by the tragic loss of life yesterday in Coventry, which resulted in the death of Border Patrol agent David Chris Malin. Still, no reporting yet that we can confirm on who did this. The Washington Post is reporting this, that the suspect in this was a German national. That German national is dead. The second suspect they're reporting is a U.S. citizen who suffered injuries, and they're in custody. And that's just the Washington Post reporting that. Here on Live Now from Fox, we will work to provide and confirm more information on you about who exactly did this on the I-91 in Vermont just yesterday. So, like I said, a very, very sad set of circumstances. But we are in a new hour. I'm Andrew Kraft.
And here on Live Now from Fox, we want to get into more of the...
We do apologize there. I'm Andrew Kraft. We do apologize for that. We're going to cue that interview up in just a moment. But let's take our first commercial break, and we have lots more to get to. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Fudge, that had an opening too.
here, 2 live now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Live picture there at the White House here. Well, our colleague and friend, Fox's Connor Hansen, has a look for all the reaction after Donald Trump's inauguration as the 47th president of the United States and the flurry of executive actions he has already taken on just day 2. Let's listen.
Donald Trump's first full day as the 47th president kicked off with a focus on immigration reform, one of his top promises on the campaign trail.
Let's go. Oh, dude.
President Trump returning to the White House after a prayer service turned political.
The vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes. They're good neighbors.
Episcopal Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy touched on immigration, birthright citizenship, and DEI, all topics Trump has challenged with some of the executive orders he signed yesterday.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now.
The president holding
They're
his
scared
first
now.
meeting at the White House with congressional GOP leaders. And later announcing a partnership between 3 tech companies investing hundreds of billions of dollars to build more advanced artificial intelligence infrastructure. Later this week, Trump will reportedly make his first trip as president to North Carolina to take a look at the recovery efforts from Hurricane Helene, then travel to California, where wildfires have ravaged the Los Angeles area. In Washington, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
Connor, thanks so much. And since Connor filed that report, more of President Trump's travel later this week has been confirmed by Trump himself. He will, on Friday, visit western North Carolina that was so ravaged last fall by Hurricane Helene. He'll also go on Friday to the Los Angeles area to meet with those impacted by the devastating and deadly wildfires there. Also on Thursday, he said he's going to Nevada to thank the people there for winning him the state. Remember, Nevada was one of those 7 battleground states. So back out live, though, to the White House. Like I said, we're going to be comprehensively covering all of these executive actions by Trump today.
We gotta get this out of our
including
side.
on the economy, including some,
I
though,
got full boost. I just can't
that
find it
were
open.
not issued on day 1 that he may have said were going to be, but for whatever
Plenty of
reason,
time.
we're not. Having to do with crypto, having to do with electric vehicles, and others. Of course, he made some tariff threats and promises. We'll get into that. And this is all in a conversation I had with our friend there at Market Watch, Rob
Yeah, I wish I was there.
Let's listen.
Not there.
And here on Live Now from Fox, we want to get into more of the flurry of executive orders signed by President Donald Trump just yesterday, and what
Nice
may
to
have
see.
been left out on day 1. We're going to do that with our friend there at Market Watch, reporter Rob Schroeder. He joins me. Hey, Rob, good to see you here. And it was a very busy day for day 1 of the Trump administration. Let's get into some of these executive orders and some that were not signed that may be coming in the future. There was nothing about crypto yesterday. Why not?
That's right. We were expecting a cryptocurrency-related order. You know, President Trump has embraced this industry. He's now embraced it to the point where he has his own coin, as does the First Lady, Melania Trump. And that took a bit of the
Keep it up!
air out of the room, so to speak, in terms of executive orders that he may or may not be issuing here real soon. The focus has become on them and where they're going to go in value and so on. But we have been expecting something like a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This is somewhat like the strategic petroleum reserve that your viewers know about. But it's unclear still, Andrew, how this kind of thing would work and what dollar terms we're talking about. Can we do it without Congress? Probably not. But there's lots of I's to dot and T's to cross on this. And the industry is waiting in some form or another for some sort of legitimacy to be bestowed upon it by the White House after what they perceived as an unfriendly administration when Gary Gensler was head.
Dude, just let it
of the
slide on
Securities
by.
and Exchange Commission.
Yeah, and it seems like the crypto industry is going to get that. I think that's really interesting. Talking about somewhat of a relatively new technology, electric vehicles. We know what the former Biden administration's stance was toward EVs. The Trump administration has the complete opposite stance. Did we get an executive order on that, say, reversing some of Biden's actions on electric vehicles? And if not, when's that coming, and what might that look like?
Right. Well, the administration and President Trump did move quickly on EVs. It is a bit of a misnomer to call the Biden administration's tailpipe emissions an EV mandate. There isn't a mandate to buy EVs per se, but rather it was encouraged. But President Trump's actions will likely lead to sales of more gasoline-powered cars than if the Biden rule has stayed in place. It's now been taken out of place, and you have it's a tale of two industries that each president
Should have waited, bro. You're linebacker.
wants to encourage the traditional gasoline powered, and you'll probably see more sales for those. Former President Biden now wanting to encourage these electric vehicles and so on. So it's pretty much of a sea change in terms of direction, let's call it, not a mandate from Washington, but direction, preference, whatever the word you might choose to use, encouragement certainly.
You know, that's so interesting too, because the kind of ambivalence toward accepting electric vehicles seems to run counter to Elon Musk's support of President Trump. He's one of Trump's biggest backers, and of course he started Tesla, so I find that interesting there. Let's talk about natural gas, oil and gas, production, exploration.
Get it out!
And the like here, talking about
Get it out!
independence. In his inaugural address, he declared a national emergency when it comes to energy specifically. What are the
Fucking
parameters
Christ,
of that?
That's right. President Trump really does want to encourage more drilling for oil and gas, and I think the key word here really is encourage. You know,
Should've
oil
bet on that
companies
one, bro.
are not required
Should've had
to
a
go
fucking
out and look on
clear the
public lands, private lands for more natural resources. In fact, there's quite a bit of drilling, exploration, and production going on already. The U.S. is a major energy producer and supplier. So things are going pretty well in that department. But again, President Trump wants to encourage that sort of behavior. He also wants to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and there would be many millions of barrels required to do that. So that's something that would take years to do.
I didn't see it.
In a series of actions, it can't be done in one fell swoop. But the message that you're getting here from the White House, and including via these orders that he's putting out, are really one of traditional energy, traditional production, and all that means for jobs in that field, for the resources that we put in our homes, in our vehicles, and so on. So you're really getting a green light.
Dude, oh my God.
Big energy companies
Really?
to do more
Insane.
of what they do best.
I wanted to also ask about some of these incoming tariff proposals. That was also mentioned yesterday, but not on day one. They're going to be kind of outlined here in the next couple of weeks against our neighbors, Canada and Mexico, at the rate of 25%. Now, is that on all tariffs, or excuse me, all imports rather?
It's unclear exactly what President Trump is talking about, and I think, Andrew, you and I have seen this movie before during the first administration. President Trump doesn't discuss things like the art of the deal without really putting his money where his mouth is on that subject. He really does like to deal. He really does like to float these kinds of things and then talk. You saw, for example, Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, the outgoing Canadian Prime Minister, go down to Mar-a-Lago when
Good
Trump
stuff.
started discussing tariffs a few weeks ago. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of negotiation encouraged or started up before February 1st, when President Trump says that these 25% tariffs are going to go into effect. The products are unclear, the products haven't been named yet, but obviously Canada and Mexico are the U.S.'s biggest trading partners that the U.S. have. So it would be quite a ripple effect for consumers in all countries if these things were to go through. And Canada and Mexico, I would add, would probably have retaliatory tariffs if they were. So I don't think that a trade war is in anybody's interests or any politician wants to start one. But rather I think that we're headed towards some sort of a negotiation here with this threat hanging over it to get things done.
I set you up for failure, bro.
Lastly, another major policy move is on what to do with TikTok. And there's now a delay in the implementation of the ban on the very popular social media app for about 90 days. So that is going to take us to April of this year. And a lot of people are wondering at that point, what will have been decided? That's a long time, but maybe in that period, the app will be divested from its Chinese parent ByteDance. Maybe not. But this is really interesting because I can't remember the last time a law is in place, signed by the previous president, not going to be enforced by the previous administration, upheld unanimously by the Supreme Court, and then delayed in implementation here. It's very interesting. What happens with it?
It is, and I think the bottom line here is that even though some of the parameters of what's going to happen next are unclear, there's already been some discussion of can President Trump do this? And can he delay it for 75 days or 90 days? I think what the upshot is that he wanted to stick around. He was asked in the Oval Office what changed his mind about this particular app, and he said, I got to use it. He is known for sending tweets on X, formerly Twitter, of course, and he did embrace this technology. So I think in one way or the other, once again, he's encouraging the use and the longevity of this particular app. He clearly wants it to be sold to an American firm or individual, and to be taken out of Chinese ownership. He even threatened tariffs against China if this isn't resolved in a way. Using tariffs in this way is something that I think we've seen before. We saw it with Denmark and Greenland, for example, and I suspect it won't be the last time that he'll raise applying tariffs to get what he wants. So TikTok will be a fascinating story to watch. It already has been quite a saga. There's lots more to come.
Yeah, and we are pre-recording this. We're waiting for President Trump to make an announcement on private sector investment with regard to, I believe, artificial intelligence, data storage. So that's in store in the next couple of minutes. Rob Schroeder with Market Watch, as always. Thanks so much for your time. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Back out live there to the White House. So Rob and I pre-recorded that. Wanted to show you our conversation. That was before this major announcement by President Trump of billions of dollars of investments in the private sector to build AI infrastructure. He was joined by the CEOs of SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle. So we'll get into that in replay just a little bit later on. On the tail end of that very announcement, he did take many questions from the White House press pool and made some news. So we'll be replaying that a little bit later tonight. But in the meantime, let's take yet another quick commercial break, because when we come back, we do want to dive into that key word, it seems, of the last 2 days, that word pardon. Well, President Trump issuing a blanket pardon for the more than 1,000 defendants charged in the January 6th Capitol riot back in 2021, now 4 years ago. And this is quite controversial. Many Democrats especially are assailing President Trump over this very move. Some Republicans even saying that this does not necessarily bode well or ascribe to Republicans' belief in upholding and supporting law enforcement. So you're going to also hear from some of these newly released individuals, including Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes. Remember, he was serving a multi-year sentence over his role on January 6th. Well, reporters caught up with him outside of the jail. He was just released there. So we'll get into all of that after.
Oh, it's tough. Try to demo that fuck. Who's trying to forfeit?
And welcome back here. Sue Live now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. What I want to put up right now, we do have a live picture there outside the D.C. jail. You see there some of the D.C.
Good.
Metropolitan Police officers standing by because earlier there was a throng of reporters and supporters alike in response to what President Trump did yesterday, last night from the Oval Office, signing pardons for approximately 1,500 convicted in connection with the January 6th Capitol riot.
Bruh. Oh my goodness, I wasn't even down there. I demoed too.
It
was a 1-on-2.
Profile January 6th defendants, and they received some of the harshest punishments. Now remember, this became the largest investigation in Justice Department history. Rose of Granbury, Texas, was serving an 18-year prison sentence. Ontario of Miami was serving a 22-year sentence after they were convicted of orchestrating plots to stop the peaceful transfer of power after Trump lost the 2020 election to President Joe Biden. Now, you'll remember they were convicted on this very rare charge of seditious conspiracy. Well, Stuart Rose spoke with reporters, this is very brief, outside of the jail after his release.
We knew that was coming, because we promised it. I promised they would come to stay. We knew it was going to happen. I have no doubt it was going to happen. I think it's a good day for America that this is being, all wrongs are being undone. So none of these people should have been here in the first place. None of them were ever tried and done fair trial. This is being innocent until proven guilty. And none of them proven guilty until they're fair jury. Trump did the right thing. President Trump did the right thing by letting these guys out and pardoning them because they're not going to fair trial.
Nice.
That's on the DOJ. You want a fair system and fair trials, that's one thing. If you don't do that, don't be surprised if you don't enforce the presumption of innocence.
Third. Nice.
All right, back out live there to Washington, D.C., outside of the jail there. Back out live also to the U.S. Capitol because I just wanted to go into this a little bit more. Now, both Rhodes and Tarrio's attorneys confirmed to the Associated Press today that they had been released hours after Trump pardoned, commuted the sentences or ordered the dismissal of cases against all 1,500 plus people who were charged with federal crimes in the riot. Trump's action paved the way for the release of extremist group leaders convicted in major conspiracy cases, as well as people who violently attacked law enforcement officers.
What the fuck did it do? Was actually there.
Pardons will end a
Guys
quote,
suck.
grave national injustice that has been perpetrated
Guys
upon the American
dookie.
people over the last 4 years, and begin a quote process of national reconciliation. Well, I have in front of me a statement in from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat from New York. He said this: House Republicans are celebrating pardons issued to a bloodthirsty mob that violently assaulted police officers on January 6, 2021. What happened to backing the blue? He says far-right extremists have become the
letting
party
2
of
officers go too,
lawlessness
so, man.
and disorder. He says don't ever lecture America
J6er for
again
life.
about anything. Well, Trump was asked about these pardons just today in a back and forth with reporters there in the Roosevelt Room of the White House. Matt Visor at the Washington Post with this tweet saying President Trump asked whether there is space for the Proud Boys in the political conversation. Trump said, well, we'll have to see. They've been given a pardon. I thought their sentences were ridiculous and excessive. So that was Trump responding to some follow-up questions about some of the criticism he's been getting over this carte blanche en masse blanket pardoning of all those charged in connection to the January 6th Capitol riot. I believe there are some carve-out exemptions for several, though obviously bulk, the majority of those, their sentences either commuted, their cases dismissed, or outright pardoned. In the meantime here, Senate Democrats in their daily press briefing on the field there spoke about this and other reactions to some of these executive orders here. Let's listen.
It's clear Donald Trump's golden age is not for the working and middle class. In fact, it's a golden age for special interests, for wealthy elites, and for corporate executives of big corporations. On day one, Donald Trump signed over 150 executive orders dismantling years of progress on lowering costs for American families, on energy jobs, on lowering prescription drug prices, public health and public safety. With the flick of a pen,
Get it back to me?
President Trump took steps to make it harder to enroll in health care and made Medicaid more restrictive. He even made it harder for Americans to save on prescription drugs. He made it a golden age for Big Pharma and Big Pharma executives. He cleared the way for big oil polluters and halted leasing of offshore wind farms, making it a golden age for oil company executives. Nothing that President Trump did on day one lowered grocery prices. Nothing helped Americans achieve their dream of owning a home. Nothing will help working families earn more and save more. Who exactly is Donald Trump's golden age for? Not for working Americans, and not for your family, and not for you. President Trump's golden age is one for America's biggest drug companies, who now can worry less about lowering their prices. It's a golden age for America's richest oil executives, who want nothing more than to kill clean jobs and deepen America's dependence on fossil fuels and raise the price for you at the pump. It's a golden age for America's top 1%, who want another $1 trillion tax break, paid for on the backs of working families. And sadly, it's a golden age for lawlessness and lawbreakers.
Lawlessness. Golden age for lawlessness. I love it. It's the Wild West.
There is no other way to describe President Trump's pardon of January 6th offenders than un-American. It is so deeply un-American to do that, to pardon. And let's be clear. President Trump didn't just pardon protesters.
I didn't know how to bounce, bro.
Convicted of assaulting police officers.
It wasn't going in.
Individuals convicted of seditious conspiracy. And he pardoned those who attempted to undermine our democracy. It's a betrayal of the highest order of our Capitol police officers who risked their lives to keep us safe.
But
so
useless.
cruel to the civic
But
man
useless.
who lost a police officer. When President Trump talks about a golden age, this is what he really means. Richer drug companies, more powerful oil executives, freedom from criminals who attack our police officers and attack our democracy. It ain't a golden age for you, average American, that's for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much, Senator Schumer. When we were together last, I talked about how we as Democrats are willing to find common ground with Republicans and the administration if we're going to actually help the people they said they want to help, to bring costs down, whether it's housing, whether it's child care, whether it's health care. But we're going to stand our ground when they hurt those people. And that is exactly what is happening in this first executive order, as well as the announcement by the Ways and Means Committee over in the House for how they are going to look to pay for their tax cuts for billionaires. I'm focused today on the pharmaceutical industry. As you all know, they had a sweetheart deal for years when it came to Medicare negotiation for our seniors. And after years of trying, it was Democrats and Democrats alone that undid that deal and made sure that we got lower costs. But now in what the president has dubbed the golden age, we're seeing the goldest of the golden age getting the benefit of this. That would be pharmaceutical companies if we reverse these policies. So they've done it in two ways. One is what they've just announced over in the House of ways they want to cut things on the back of the prescription drug negotiations and some of those programs. And the second is Trump's executive order. For health care plans, He cut the Affordable Care Act enrollment period short and reversed policies that made it affordable for parents to add their kids to their health insurance. He's also making it harder for 24 million people to keep coverage year to year by revoking automatic re-enrollment in Affordable Care Act plans. For prescriptions, he ended a program encouraging Medicare prescription drug plans to offer generic drugs for a flat $2 copay for common chronic conditions. So of course
This
we're
old
going
lady
to
is
oppose that
crusty.
and do everything we can to bring
sounds
back
crusty.
competitive principles
They're trafficking
and
fentanyl
cheaper
drugs, children.
first.
When they come to us and say Ukraine and Russia, it's like, okay, I mean, this is 8,000 more, 12,000 miles away. How far away is it from here? What is the purpose of American resources going into these conflicts? Israel, for instance. And on the southern border, we have drugs, trafficking, murder, death. They say that, I forgot the name of the city. Juarez. Yeah. One of the most dangerous
Let's
cities in the
go.
world. It's on our border, and there's death and explosions and guns. I mean, we should stop that, right?
Why soldiers and border officers are given guns? What is the reason?
In the United States.
What is the purpose of having a gun?
Deterrence.
To use it.
All
What
about
is the
deterrence.
problem? What is the problem for American Congress to pass the law that immediately when someone is trying to cross the wall is dead? What's the problem? We passed this law. Do it. I mean,
Well, so
what is
let's
the problem?
contrast the
with the
Polish-
experience of the gangs, because it's not about killing people, innocent people, for no reason, like like a dog, like ducks. It's not about that. We are human beings. We know that there are different situations, but the wave of illegals are used by the terrorists in Europe. They blow themselves in Paris, in Sweden, in Germany, not in Poland. Zero illegal migration equals zero terrorist attack. That's
But
official data.
I want to ask the congressman your perspective as an American on how we would handle the southern border security issue.
I got taken out,
I mean,
bruh.
even if you didn't need guns or did need guns, Biden didn't care.
Yeah,
And we
true.
were welcoming
It's
them
not,
in
it's not
with
about
the
you.
policy.
It's about Democrats. What they did. They did nothing.
It's not that we can't stop them. I mean, you could build a wall and stop them. The Democrats opened the doors in the wall.
Yeah, and
when-
invited them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
invite them when they come in.
Would
But-
you invite them? Just.
One other thing about being in the rotunda when Trump was delivering that speech, from where I was sitting, I could see George Bush, and I could see Bill Clinton, and I could see Joe Biden. Just a cabal of neocons who have started wars, got us involved in so many things overseas, and it looked like they were eating lemons, and Trump was having a ball with it, just feeding them lemons.
That was wonderful. I wanted to answer Ian's question that he asked earlier. So, Donald Trump did use his emergency powers to. Donald Trump, is that good? Good? All right. Donald Trump did use his emergency powers to declare an invasion, and that tends to still need Congress to issue some sort of joint resolution or kind of back him up. It needs congressional affirmation, I believe. He can't just do that, but he did that so that way he could enact the Alien Enemies Act that John Adams incited in 1798, and that would give him the power to order troops to restrain and just apprehend illegal people that are threatening America. And the last time this was used was World War II, when they did it to the Japanese. So he's not planning to put them all in camps like FDR did. He's planning to send them back home.
Just a couple of clarifications. Donald Trump issued a lethal force authorization back in 2018, and it is the current policy of CBP that they do have the authorization for lethal force.
Thank God.
When presented with a threat or something of that nature.
So that wasn't overturned by Biden. That
What?
Biden didn't overturn. I know he went in and overturned everything.
Well, so the issue was when we had this big border crisis with Texas and the federal government, I believe it was reaffirmed, or it was explicitly affirmed, the National Guard had the authority to use lethal force because there are cartel members with rifles.
That's right.
With ill intent trafficking children.
But you had 4 years of services being scared to use it. That is the problem. Because if this law is in power, why they are still coming? Why they are not afraid? When we passed the law recently, the numbers of illegals dropped drastically. Like
Well,
that.
the issue is largely that although Trump issued, I mean, I'll clarify.
So I
this,
think
just-
Democrats they built the atmosphere for the illegals with these apps, websites, inviting them, and services did not what to do. Okay, we do have a right, but then on the political side, we have president and administration which is inviting. That's how I understand this situation.
I'll break this down because it's worse than you than we are discussing. The first thing I'll say is the authorization, as we see it, is it's supposed to be obvious. If our law enforcement, if our National Guard, if our soldiers, our federal agents are being threatened by obvious armed cartel members or otherwise, they have a right to use force to defend themselves and this country. What ends up happening under the Biden administration is this open door policy that they deny until it becomes so problematic they have no choice. Chicago is dealing with a mass migration problem. It's worse. We've discussed it on the show. Dr. Phil appearing on The View explaining it wasn't. It was so far gone as to how Biden, his administration, was allowing this, that there were CBP agents publicly stating that there were children being trafficked into prostitution under their watch and facilitated by CBP. Customs and Border Protection were bringing in children with numbers on their arms that they knew they were being sent into child prostitution, and they assisted in it as per the orders they were given by the federal government. What's changing now? It's really simple. We don't need to worry about lethal force. We don't need to worry. Donald Trump is shutting the border down for illegal immigration, and he's gonna build a wall. He's issuing the executive orders. So back to what you were saying, Ian. When I look at issues of Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, etc., you're gonna have to give me a really, really clever and likely circuitous argument about the interests of the American people and what these things do for us. The southern border makes sense when we know from Dr. Phil himself, children are being trafficked.
Yeah,
I believe. Did you want to add to that?
No, I'll wait for Ian.
I kind of joked at the Iowa caucus. We had Vivek Ramaswamy on about setting up machine gun nests all along the southern border. Like I'm kind of hardcore about this.
Yeah, everybody got freaked out by that.
And it was like, well, I put the seed in the ground, and I'm not. What concerns me is these cartels sit back in their headquarters, and they get citizens that don't know what's going on to run drugs in their underwear across the border, and then what do they open fire on?
No.
But
okay,
so like, how do you discern a threat? When it's hidden?
When they're attacking us, when they're putting bombs in Juarez and things like that, we know, like, when they are murdering people, it is reasonable to say we have to defend people from being murdered. That's self-defense.
So
okay, if I may.
500,000 children went missing.
That's right.
The HHS is in charge of placing the unaccompanied minors. So it might go to show that the U.S. government is the leading child trafficking organization in the United States.
I do want to jump to the next story, though, because
one sentence.
Yeah. Well,
what do you do? What do you do when someone is trying to break into your house? To your house. What do you
Depends
do?
on the state in this country.
Okay.
Well,
no. What, I'm talking about logical thinking. Do you ask a question, or do you shoot and then ask questions?
But
I shoot and then I ask questions. What do you do if there's 3 people in the house? What do you do when it's 5 people in your house? What would you do if there's 330 million? America is your home. You have to protect it. Shoot and then ask questions.
Well, the issue here in the United States is that each different state has different laws. So for Poland,
no, I'm talking about the law in European Union. I'm not talking about someone being killed for nothing. I'm talking about the act of terrorism. I'm talking about those who are trying to commit crime. I'm not talking about shooting to anyone just to be, I'm talking about the terrorists, gangs, those who are trying to sell drugs and they're killing people. You have to protect yourself in general.
So obviously Trump is doing everything he can that he can do by executive action and executive orders and policy changes. And a lot of that is rolling back to what he had when he was president the first time, which worked. But there's another prong here. As a member of U.S. Congress, I have to tell you, we are also going to pass laws. And there's a bill called reconciliation that allows you to do this with 51 votes in the Senate instead of the typical 60 votes. And so this will be one of the first bills that comes through Congress. There's going to be a tendency to add a lot of other stuff to it and not do things that need to be done in it. But I want to assure Ian, I have the same concerns. Like we don't have a king here. And he doesn't get to make law, but he gets to enforce law, and there are some policies. But we are going to have bills to do basically a belt and suspenders here. So one of Trump's executive orders is to end birthright citizenship, for instance. We can do that in law as well. Now, there'll be arguments, constitutional arguments made to the Supreme Court, and a lot of this will get tied up, but it's a more solid footing when it's a law that's passed by Congress as opposed to an executive action or executive order. So that's going to come in the first 6 months of this Congress.
Let's jump to this story from the Post-Millennial. You're fired. Trump admin removes over 1,000 Biden-appointed staffers not aligned with MAGA. My presidential personnel office is actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration. Trump had posted this on a Truth Social saying, "Our first day in the White House is not over yet. My presidential personnel office is actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration who are not aligned with our vision to make America great again. Let this serve as official notice of dismissal for these 4 individuals, with many more coming soon." He then goes on to mention Jose Andres from the President's Council on Sports, Mark Milley from the National Infrastructure Advisory Council, Brian Hook from the Wilson Center for Scholars, and Keisha Lance Bottoms from the President's Export Council. We also have this story from the Daily Mail. Donald Trump fires first female Coast Guard leader over her obsession with DEI. So going back to what Trump is famous for, he is firing lots of people. Good thing.
May I defend the absolute necessity of this with an example from my own country?
Yes, you may.
So those who peripherally follow British politics over the UK might know a woman by the name of Liz Truss. She was the shortest serving Prime Minister in history and has since become a decent friend of mine because the typical, the layman's view, is that she crashed the economy with a budget. What ended up happening was the banks, reacting to what the Federal Reserve did with Biden's inflation, set interest rates high about a week before, and then they decided to treat pension products the same way as they did running up to the 2008 crash. It led to a run on the market. She was scapegoated for it. She was kicked out. Nobody at the banks lost their jobs for losing millions in public funds, because what the Tony Blair government did in 1997 up to 2010 was ensure that every single civil service appointee is appointed by another civil servant, and every institution is neutral and independent from Parliament. So heads of the banks, the heads of the civil service, no matter what they get wrong, they cannot be fired or replaced